Hello and welcome back to the Fast Forward Sailing YouTube channel. Let's have a look at what went down on day 5 of racing in Tokyo. Competition in the Olympic sailing is really hotting up, with all classes having at least 2 days of racing under their belt. There's a stunning comeback happening in the laser fleet. New Zealand's Burling and Chuk are still not in the 49er medal positions after another bad race. The Brits are dominating on day 2 of the Nacra, but it was the windsurfers that grabbed the headlines on what is the penultimate day of racing in the last ever Olympics for the RSX class. In 2024 it will be replaced by the foiling windsurf class, the IQ foil. Kiran Badloe, the Dutch windsurfer with his avatar style haircut, has won gold all but a name. All he needs to do is start the medal race, so I don't think even a broken leg is going to stop him doing that. In the RSX Women's fleet, the Chinese windsurfer has climbed into first place ahead of Britain's 22-year-old Emma Wilson, and it looks like one of the favourites, Lilian De Geus, is going to miss out on the medal yet again. Interestingly, we are guaranteed 2 brand new medalists in the RSX Women's class and 3 brand new medalists in the RSX Men's class. This is largely the result of a lot of the top windsurfers stepping down after Rio. So we're going to get on to more windsurfing in a minute and go over the highlights from the penultimate race in the RSX Women and the RSX Men. No video footage, I'm afraid, due to copyright issues, but we have some images of the key moments. And I'll also be doing a bit of an introduction to some of the sailors and my analysis of the results, so stay tuned for that. But first, we're going to be having a look at the results from all the other fleets. In the 470 men's class, Australia's Matt Belcher and Wearn showed who's boss with 2 bullets in the 2 races today, and it wasn't a bad day for the Brits either, with a 2nd and a 4th, putting them well on track to winning a 2nd silver medal. After a mixed first day, the Swedish have also climbed up into the medal spots, but it is extremely close, with all these boats being 1 point apart. 470 women now, the Polish are still sitting on top, but the Brits are catching with a bullet in race 1. It does seem like Poland's form from day 1 wasn't a fluke, so they'll be ones to watch, I'm sure, in the days to come. The French boat also having a good day. They're one of the favourites. They finished 3rd in Rio, and interestingly, both the British helm and the French helm are sailing with different crews this time round. 49er men now. The Brits retain their lead, but they are now on level points with the Spanish. Both have picked up some pretty high results, so the winner could well be the one who doesn't slip up again. The big surprise is the favourites New Zealand, Pete Burling and Blair Chuk, having another bad race. They did manage to rectify it a bit with a great 2nd race, and they're still close to the medal positions, so I expect we'll see them get into those positions. They're leaving it a bit late though. Do you think Burling and Chuk maybe have been a bit busy with SailGP and the America's Cup this year? Of course, if the Olympics had happened last year, as they were supposed to, they wouldn't have had as many of these distractions. Let me know your thoughts on that below. The Australian Phillips brothers, who had a good day yesterday, falling back with some pretty bad results today. And the Irish boat, who showed promise on the first race, had a pretty good 2 results today as well. Let's have a look at the 49er RSX Women, also being led by the Brits. They had a solid day today, but not quite up to their standards of the first day, but enough to give them a commanding lead at this halfway stage. Let's have a look at the Finn class now. Another great day for Giles Scott, showing just how commanding he can be in this Finn class. Us Brits were getting a bit worried after day 1, but it looks like Giles has found form, and it looks like he's on track to win that 2nd gold medal. But the Spanish sailor, who I didn't expect to be 2nd at this point, is in hot pursuit with a very consistent set of results, so it could be a close one. Some of the pre-regatta favourites in New Zealand's Josh Jr. and Australia's Jake Lilly are finding themselves all the way back in 7th and 8th. At this stage, it looks like they'll struggle to make those middle positions. Ladies and men's now, this is the other big story of the day. Matt Wearn absolutely smashing it with 2 bullets today, and disaster for the Cypriot, who had to retire from this race. I don't believe the footage was broadcast, so if you have any information on what happened there, let us know. That means the Cypriot had to discard that high result and consequently count his 20, which he would have been hoping to discard. So that now gives Australia's Matt Wearn quite a commanding lead. 48-year-old sailing great Robert Scheidt finds himself back in 4th. Is it going to be deja vu for Scheidt again? As we know, he finished in Rio just outside those medals. The USA's Charlie Buckingham and Germany's Philip Bull had a better day in the laser after some inconsistency early on in the week, putting in some pretty good results. So it looks like they're on track to make the medal race. The British sailor Elliot Hansen dropping back into 12th. One sailor I didn't expect to be up there at this stage of the regatta is Norway's Herman Thomasgaard. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. It'll be interesting to see whether he can hold on to that medal position come the end of the week. So here are the laser radial women results. Another commanding day from Rio medalist Anne-Marie Rindom, posting a second and a first. Very impressive in such a tight fleet. She could well pull off the feat of winning the class before the medal race. Interestingly, the medal race means a bit less than the laser because it is such a big fleet. So in the medal race, the maximum points you can get is 20 because there's only 10 boats and you get double points. So 10 times 2 is 20. And some of these sailors are already posting results nearly twice that. So even if Anne-Marie Rindom finished last in the medal race, she could still secure that gold medal. One of the favourites, Marit Baumeister, had a black flag today. Terrible day after a bit of a comeback 2 days ago. This will be one to forget for her. Interestingly, Great Britain's Alison Young, we haven't seen much of this week, has climbed her way up to 10th place, which could see her make that medal race. But it is very close. Another one we could see make that medal race if it all goes to plan tomorrow is Ireland's Analyse Murphy, medalist last time round in Rio, but having a bit of a shocker of a regatta so far. But she's been finding some form with improving results over the last few days and absolutely smashed it today. So certainly one of the most inconsistent sailors. So she's leaving it late, but she could just about make that medal race. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to mean that much to her because she's already missed out on that bronze medal. The big shock in this fleet is the performance of one of the favourites, USA's Paige Riley, who has had 2 UFDs. That means you're disqualified for being over the line, and her best result has been a 17th. So if anyone has any insight as to what they think might be happening there, I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments below. Right, let's have a look at the Nacra class now. This is their second day of racing, and it was a great day for the Brits, posting some very solid results. Also good for the overnight leaders, the Italians. It's looking like it's going to be a tight fight between those two boats, with a lot of the other boats, including previous gold medalist and maybe the oldest Olympian competing at the Games, Santiago Lange, quite far back on points. Unlike the laser fleet, it does seem to be a fleet where you can find some consistency. So once you do make some mistakes, like the Argentine and the Australians have, it can be hard to make up that ground. The Germans I'm not too familiar with, but they seem to be having a pretty good regatta, but posting an 11th today. They'll be hoping not to make too many more mistakes. Right now we're going to go over some of the highlights from the penultimate race in the men's windsurfer and the penultimate race in the women's windsurfer. Once we go through these highlights, I'll give you a bit of an introduction to the top board sailors in these fleets and my predictions for those medal positions. By the way, if you're liking the video so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss future videos, press the subscribe button and the alerts bell, and YouTube will send you a notification each time I release a new video. I've been trying to do them daily this week, but after the Olympics I'll slow down a bit, and I usually do about 1 video a week. So onto the highlights for the penultimate race of the RSX Women Windsurfer. It was a good start from experienced Rio Olympians Charlene Picon and Lilian De Geus. It looked like GBR had to tack away quite soon after the start to get out some of that dirty air. And interestingly, her main competitor China quickly tacked with her, probably hoping to make sure the Brit couldn't get around her. It wasn't a great first upwind for the 22-year-old British sailor, but not a disaster either. Wilson does seem just a little bit shorter than her Chinese counterpart, and in the RSX class, being tall and slim is an advantage. Around the first mark, it was Israel's Katie Spichakov, hopefully that's how you pronounce it, who had an absolutely amazing last day, posting 2 bullets and a 4th place. Unfortunately for her though, it's too little too late to make those medal positions. China rounded in 2nd, followed by Hong Kong, and GBR was back in 6th. At the first leeward gate, the order was the same. All the top 3 seemed to slam into the leeward mark. I know windsurfers can touch the marks, but it must be some sort of technique. Perhaps I think if you're not hitting the mark, it shows you're not tight enough to it. Some of them do really whack into it though, which you wouldn't have thought was optimal. If you're a windsurfer, let me know what you think's going on there. France rounded with the Netherlands, with a 36-year-old Charlene Picon capsized round in the leeward gate, which let GBR past. GBR, interestingly, were one of the only boats to go out left on the next beat, and they did seem to gain a bit, potentially because of clearer wind. And the last beat, Israel was still in control, picking their lay lines very well today. It really helps if you can get those lay lines right in the windsurfer, because if you cut them too finely, you'll find yourself slow down as you pinch to make that mark. So at Mark 3, it was Israel, and China had climbed into second ahead of Hong Kong. And that top 3 was the top 3 at the finish. That puts the results very close for tomorrow's medal race between the top 3. It looks like the Italian Marta Maghetti is out of it. If we do the maths here, 20 points is the top score you can score in the medal race. So if we add 20 onto France's score, that is 56. So even if Maghetti won and Picon finished last, the Italian would not make that bronze medal position. So it's a battle between these 3 boats. Interestingly, it's the first windsurfing female medalist for Britain in over 10 years. So well done, Emma. I'm sure she'll be one to watch in years to come. Interestingly, the Chinese windsurfer didn't go to the 2016 Olympics. So it's very impressive to see her doing so well at her first Olympics. It does seem to be that the Chinese sailors often seem to do great at one Olympics and then just drop out like they're finishing on a high or something. So in 2016, the Chinese windsurfer was Chen Paina, and she came in with a great result in second. The Russian Stefania Elfatina also isn't racing in Tokyo. The Netherlands' Lilian De Geus looks like she's going to be repeating her Rio performance, finishing just outside those medal positions. So it's a battle between these top 3, and really it's all to play for because of those double points in the medal race. It's almost a case of who beats who. Emma Wilson, of course, carrying the highest result. She'll be most at risk if she underperforms in this medal race. Charlene Picon, who took time out to become a mother between 2016 and 2021, so very impressive to see her up here again. If she can win the race and China and Britain finish 4th or below, then she has won that gold medal. It's very hard to predict who's going to win out in a medal race, but Charlene Picon does have the most experience. She won in Rio last time, finishing 2nd in the medal race. However, the Chinese boat has finished in the top 4 in all but 2 of their races, so she continues that form. Even if Charlene Picon does go on to perform in the medal race, the Chinese windsurfer could still win out. Emma Wilson has been a bit less consistent, but has the most first places of any of the top 3. So if she gets another win, which would be seriously impressive for any Olympian, no matter a first-time Olympian. If she comes in first and the Chinese boat comes in 3rd or below, then she has won that gold medal. Well, let's have a look at the RSX men's class now. I'm going to run through some of the highlights from the penultimate race, which was arguably the most important race in the RSX fleet, with the Netherlands' Kiran Badloe coming out on top, just far enough ahead of the French windsurfer Thomas Goyard, who finished in 3rd. Before this race, the Dutch sailor knew he only had to beat France by 2 places and be 7 points ahead of the Italian sailor, which he was, which all but guarantees him the goals going into tomorrow's medal race. All he has to do is start the race. You're not allowed to not start that medal race. We saw this happen twice in Rio, with Pete Burling in the 49er and Giles Scott in the Finn, winning gold before that medal race, but they still had to sail that medal race under the rules. So a very commanding win for the Netherlands' Kiran Badloe in his first ever Olympics. He's 26 years old, continuing the dominance of the Netherlands in the RSX class. Of course, Olympic great Dorian Van Rijsselberghe won gold medals in 2012 and 2016. Interestingly, Rijsselberghe is here as Badlow's training partner and coach, so great to see the supportive nature of the RSX fleet. Right, so let's have a look at the highlights of that pivotal penultimate race. It was a good conservative start from Badlow. He started in the centre of the line. If you're a sailor or a windsurfer, you'll know that if you start in the centre of the line, then whichever way the wind shifts, you won't be too disadvantaged. Badlow gained the lead soon off the start and led to the finish. It was a disastrous first beat for Mattia Camboni, who's been lying in 3rd. He rounded the first mark in 21st position, and he did manage to climb up to 9th, but that was enough to lose him any chance of that gold medal. In theory, 3 boats could take that bronze medal position from Italy, Poland, China, and Britain's Tom Squires. Although realistically, probably only the Polish sailor has a chance at that 3rd spot. He's the oldest sailor in the fleet, 40 years old. He finished 4th in Rio, so he'll be hoping to go one better with a good result in tomorrow's medal race. Talking of the Polish sailor, he had a great race this race. He rounded the first leeward mark in second behind Badlow, and France rounded in third. Badlow banged out right on the second beat, presumably seeing some advantage there, or perhaps just wanting to minimise those manoeuvres which do really slow you down. When he got to the lay line of the second Wearn mark, he did overlay it, and that looked deliberate from him. In the RSX class, arguably more than any other class, it really hurts if you underlay those lay lines because you either have to tack or pinch, and both of those really slow you down. At the end of the race, it was a commanding win for the Dutch sailor, followed by Poland, and Thomas Goyard had a solid result to put him ahead of Italy's Mattia Camboni. Very experienced windsurfer Byron Kokolanis had a good last race, but sadly for him, he'll just miss out on what will be the last ever RSX medal race. So a great result from Badlow. That win is his 5th win out of 12 races so far. So an outstanding performance. So with Badlow tying up the gold medal, it's a fight between France, Italy and Poland for those silver and bronze medals. That medal race tomorrow will be certainly worth a watch. Right, so I'm going to leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts on the racing so far and what your predictions are for the next few days of racing. I will see you in tomorrow's video.